Yeah, and I'm going to welcome Sam. He's our kai kōrero tuatahi. So, homai te pakipaki.
Check, check. Checks in the mail. Morning, everyone. Okay, so I just wanted to acknowledge our speakers this morning because the hardest thing about putting this together was trying to pitch it in a way that was useful to you. So even though there's filleting, I've got no fish here, but I thought about a way of doing virtual reality in there, but anyway. But maths equations, yeah, I'm not covering any maths equations. But anyway, in regards to this, it sort of aligns with Matua Kura's kōrero this morning in terms of a beginning. And he mentioned support, transfer of knowledge, feeding the whānau, looking at research out of ancient knowledge, and reflect. And that ties into, it ties into the mahi that I do at Te Wānanga Aotearoa, because we're involved in rangahau all the time. So, and that aligns to the rangahau presence we now have in the organisation. And then Te Taka covered some interesting points as well. AI as a resource, but also AI as a source. But interesting too, he mentioned calculator, and mathematicians won't be able to add. I was sitting there thinking, I can add. I'm probably not the best mathematician, but I can add. But that's a curse too, because then everything I'm doing, I'm always adding non-stop. And then the other thing was, he mentioned if you want to learn about the ocean, go to the ocean. So the fish, I don't have the fish here, would have been cool if we could go to the ocean and fish. But yeah, but we're here. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about the journey of why I'm doing what I'm doing, and it's been a lifelong journey. So I put in there trout fishing because one of many things I like to do is trout fishing, and it's a passion. But if you had asked me when I was younger, what's your passion, I wouldn't know. But I knew what I wanted to do. But now I know it's a passion. But anyway, when I was younger and skinnier, I caught my first trout at Whakamaru Dam. It was a hydro dam. Anyway, as we fished, and we continued to fish, there were times we would be successful and not. But what was interesting is that these dams, the flow of the water would sort of determine our success rate. So I was interested in that flow of the water, and then because we're at a dam, I was interested in the dam. And because of the dam, I was interested in how it worked, because it was linked to what I was doing. And then that stemmed, and that linked to my curiosity with science, which led to my study of maths at university. So that's where it originated from, was a passion for trout fishing, which led to a passion in maths. And no, I'm not going to give any secret spots out where to catch all these or how to catch them. Obviously, you can tell I'm successful. But yeah, but anyway, and we do a lot of kahawai fishing as well, and snapper fishing. But one point I wanted to make in the fishing is that every region and every area has its own pattern and its own feeding and so on. And we're just trying to capture that in the traditional knowledge to the new knowledge so that we can pass that on. So it sort of links to what Mata was saying earlier. And then connected to that was hunting. So we were fishing, but we were also hunting. Primarily, we were catching food to feed our families. But my connection to the land was through hunting, similar to my connection to water was through fishing. And I put Pythagoras' theorem in there, because I was still at school at that stage and I was really skinny then. But I put Pythagoras in there because we would walk out to these areas, we would hunt. Now, I don't want to put any pictures of the hunting or fishing, but back then, we didn't have the technology we have now. But for us to be successful in hunting, especially if we're using rifles, we needed to know the range and the distance and also the other ballistics of the firearms. So I went out with a piece of paper and a ruler, and I did the Pythagoras theorem to measure the distance. So then all you need is a piece of paper, look at where you're aiming at a 90-degree angle, and then put it on the angle where both points meet. You measure that distance there in the angle, and that'll give you the distance. So yeah, so that's how I caught my first deer at that same spot. I did that measurement when I was 14. So yeah, that's the hunting in it as well. Yeah, interesting and not interesting at the same time. And then I wanted to put the whānau, a legacy of support, in there because my interest in maths, especially when I was a teenager, there were very few of us who were interested in it. More than being a fisherman and a hunter, you're a loner. And in your journey of mathematics, it would be good to have support too, but not many of my friends were into the maths, so you need support in there. So I just wanted to acknowledge that part. So if you're on your rangahau journey, there'll be some support, or whether it's at mahi or wherever, support is key. So my mother, just in regards going back a bit, my mother helped me to get to university to do a bachelor's in science, majoring in calculus, advanced calculus, and remember that stems from the fishing and then using it in the hunting. But anyway, aside from that, she helped me get to university. And back then, sort of show my age, back then they used to pay student allowance every month. And so if you didn't have the right documents or so on, you'd have to wait another month to get paid. So I got even skinnier back then because I missed documents and I had to wait another month on top of that month. But my mother sent me $50 to get me through. And then back then, you get a lot of food from $50. Unfortunately, I went straight to McDonald's. But anyway, I was very thankful of your support. While I was at university, I was studying basic maths paper, and that's where I met my wife. And she's an ex-staff member of Te Wānanga Aotearoa as well. But anyway, she allowed me to carry on hunting and fishing, and then that led to me doing other studies, but then enrolling in He Waka. And it's pretty cool that I've got two staff members here who know that program. But anyway, I did that program, and it was awesome because one of three things, I'll just mention one thing in there. What He Waka allowed me to do was to learn and bridge the maths and the mātauranga Māori together. So what we were learning in hunting and fishing was traditional knowledge that was handed to us from our uncles and aunties. And it allowed me to bridge that together, and that's a program that we are still running, which is pretty cool. But but then I met some awesome people along the way, and that learning as well. So that's another form of support. But just with the he waka hiringa, one thing I wanted to mention in there was when I was bridging two worlds, maths as a language and mātauranga Māori in its own sense, I was trying to bridge that, and it was quite challenging, but I was looking at some philosophy, mathematical philosophy and connections in there, and posed the question to my wife. And the first thing she said was, because I was asking about this theory, she said, "You're giving me a headache." That's the first thing she said. And then the next thing she said was, "How does that hang out the washing?" I was like, what are you on about? I'm talking about like mathematical theorems that could go right across the blah, blah, blah. She goes, "Yeah, but you're still giving me a headache, and how does it hang out the washing?" So I just wanted to mention that in there, because then that's something that question that I ask myself and what I'm doing in my role as a program development advisor of new programs. And so my mentioning my journey with the hunting and fishing and also the mathematics, all my family are hunter-gatherers. They were just hunting yesterday. They're probably hunting today. But they hunt every week. So they have a passion with the hunting and fishing, and then I had a passion with the mathematics. My daughters, two teenagers now, one's just finished Te Tohu Paitahi at Waikato University, and she's now enrolled at Te Wānanga Aotearoa for Te Reo Māori. So her favourite, she said, "Dad, I like maths. My favourite topic is calculus." And I was like, "Oh man, that's so cool." But anyway, I thought, yeah, number two, all right, here we go. And then we studied for a whole year, and then okay, and we studied for a whole year. But anyway, she decided to switch out of science, and she's now in Te Reo Māori. So that's cool. That's just awesome. So they're following their own passion. Now, I'll just try and be quick in summarising this up. So my role at Te Wānanga of Aotearoa is a program development advisor. And mentioned earlier, Te Pai Tāwhiti, in there's mixed provision programs, and amongst all that. But the one thing I must stress that the Ngā Uara, the organisation is built on. One stands out for me. We could mention many, but Te Aroha is one. So the guiding principles that I have Māori in terms of my hunting and fishing to provide not only for my family but for many families, and that is usually the case at Tangi, because we give them all the kai. But also my love for what I'm doing in terms of finding patterns and trends in the data that I'm looking at is because it has maths element in there, but it also links back to the hunting and fishing that I like doing as well. Yeah, so identifying trends in there with the maths, it's just all part and parcel of it. And so, yeah, I'm very privileged to work with you all, but I think that's my time. Questions?
Sam, that was awesome. I think we could have listened to you for this whole session. And I really liked thinking about, I remember learning about Pythagoras theory and thinking, why do I need to learn about this?